Hey, when you first start in business, there is so many new things to learn. And I remember diving into books and courses trying to figure it out. And everything is new. And sometimes it's so easy to get stuck in the fact that you're learning and get stuck because there's just so much new stuff.
So today we're going to teach you the one thing that will keep you from getting stuck in your business.
So you've started a business or starting a business, and by now you might be feeling a bit of overwhelm because there's a lot of new things to learn. And Steve Jobs has this quote that we want to read to you that is so good, and we're going to unpack it a little bit, but it says, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. And you know what's so powerful is the fact that often we try to figure everything out ahead of time. We want all the dots connected before we move forward.
We sure do.
But you know what? That's not actually how life works. It's not actually how business works. And it's not actually what's going to cause you success. So if you're somebody who loves to plan, and you're somebody who loves to have all the ducks in a row, loves to have the whole thing figured out, that's not actually the best way to run business. We have the opportunity and the privilege of being around a lot of high-level entrepreneurs, and one of the qualities that I've noticed over and over and over again is they do things before they're ready.
Oh yeah, they just take massive action.
And sometimes I'm sitting there going, "What are they doing? They don't have anything.
This is going to be terrible."
You know what? It always works out for them.
It always works out better than you thought.
It does. You know, and we have a saying for ourselves that we always say is we say production over perfection.
Yeah.
And there was this story that we heard a while ago that really showed that that is true. And you can tell the story if you want.
Yeah. So, and I forgive me because I don't remember where I read it or heard it, but basically they took two groups of people, right? And I think it was a college study.
Yeah, I was going to say college.
And so they basically, they were doing pottery, right? And they told the first group.
And if you've never done pottery is actually really challenging.
I've never done pottery,
so
I don't know.
It's actually like your pot oftentimes just goes like, because it was on the wheel. It was like a pot on a wheel.
Yeah,
anyways,
like an actual
not like the pottery, the paint pottery places. Anyways.
No. So anyway, so they told the first group, they said, okay, we want you to plan the pottery that you're going to make. And we want you to spend a whole bunch of time, like pretty much you're going to get one shot at this. So we want you to spend a whole bunch of time prepping and like planning for this one piece of pottery you're going to make. So that was group one, right? And they had all month to plan. They had one shot at it. Group two, however, they said, okay, we want you to make 10 items every week. Like that's what you have to do. And then at the end, you get to pick your best one, right? So now you're going to make 40. This month, you're going to make 40 different items. But at the end, you get to pick the best one and turn that in. So what they found, what was crazy, is the people that planned did not make nearly as good of pottery as the people that did the 40 different times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's super easy to go, like, in hindsight looking back, like, of course, because they had more practice, right? But yet when it comes to business, we don't think that way, right?
We don't do that.
We don't.
We don't go and get the reps. We plan.
Right.
And then don't take action.
And the thing is it is when you are in those reps and in that thing, that's where you actually develop the skills and become masterful at it. You can plan all day long, but that's not actually making you better. But the reason that we get stuck planning is because sometimes planning feels easier than doing.
Oh, for
right?
sure.
And there's a book that our son loves. It's Way of the Warrior Kid by Jocko Willink. And you know, he's a Navy SEAL in real life too, but in the book, he's teaching his nephew, like, hey, like how to do things that can be hard.
Fear,
and
right?
how to overcome fear, yeah. And so in the story, and I don't want to ruin it if you're going to read it to your kids, but cover your ears if you don't want to hear. No, but in the story, he's teaching his nephew, like his nephew doesn't swim, and he wants to teach his nephew how to jump off this high dive, right? And he's like, so he taught him how to swim, and now the guy's like, now his nephew's like, hey, I want to jump off of that. So they go up there, and he's like, I'm scared. I don't want to do it, right? And he says this to him, and I'm going to read it to you because it's so good. He says, you see, fear lives in the moment, that powerful moment between when you decide you are going to do something in when you do it. Once you start, you won't be afraid anymore. And that's the thing. There's this fear that lives in the like planning to actually doing.
Right.
And in that moment, like it is easier to stay on the planning side because you're not yet ready to dive. You're not yet ready to do it because you've never experienced it before and you don't know what to expect. And so there's fear in the unexpected, in the unknown. There's fear in that unknown.
For sure.
And there's so many unknowns in business because if you were like us, there's a lot of the things we had never done before. And we're like, most of it. And in business, it's not like a paycheck where in a job you go and if you show up, you get paid. It's not based
like,
on
even if you don't do that good, you still get paid.
Unless they fire you, you get paid.
Until you get fired, you still get paid.
But in entrepreneurship, it is based on what you do. It's like
value provided.
Yeah, you have to do something and you don't get paid until you do that thing. And it can be really scary because it's unknown and it's like, how do I do this? You know, how do I sell something for the first time? How do I do a masterclass for the first time? How do I run a gym for the first time? How do I run a smoothie bar? Like, how do I have employees? How do I hire people? How do I pay people? Like, there's so many unknowns, so many new things. How do I make sure I do my taxes
right? How do I make sure these,
right.
this, that?
And so we get stuck in this like trying to plan mode, right? We get stuck in this perfectionist mode. You get stuck in the, okay, I got to make sure this duck is in the row, this duck is in the row, this thing, you know, and we do it online. I
have a feeling that that's where business plans came from.
Probably.
Right? Like, what do we need? Oh, let's make this big, long, drawn-out plan, and then it'll feel like we actually did something.
We're not saying don't prepare. Like, we're not saying don't prepare. But what we are saying is you will never learn until you do it, right? A mentor of ours, Myron Golden, he used to, when he first started, he actually sold, and I love this story because it's so applicable. He used to sell insurance, right? And when he first started selling, he was the most terrible person at selling in the world. Well, guess what? He actually is one of the best salespeople in the world ever now. Like he's like
for sure one of the best.
He's crazy in a good way, like crazy good. But he was terrible, right? And so he goes, you know what I did? Every single night, like he would book. I don't know if it was every night, but a lot of nights he would book a sales presentation, and he would do sales presentations after sales presentations after sales presentation, like every night. And he did this for like a year or a year and a half, right?
A year and a half.
He did it for so long, never made a sale. But guess what? Until he did, and then within a month, he actually became like the number one sales rep in their entire company.
Organization,
yeah. And that's the exact same story as the pottery story. Because guess what? The people who were doing the activity were the ones who actually got good at it. The ones who were thinking about the activity and
learning about the activity and deciding what they were going to do. Right. Didn't get better.
Right. And so often it's easy to get stuck in that I have to be perfect at this the first time I do it. I want to free you from that. You do not have to be perfect at it the first time. In fact, you're not going to.
Right.
No matter how hard you're going to try, you're not going to. And here's the thing. The people who actually just go and do it, they actually have success faster because you can't stop the need to do more, right? Like to actually be in the activity. And so if you spend 6 months planning and they spend 6 months doing, at the end of the 6 months, they're going to be farther along than you.
Significantly. Not even like
and it's
just
still
a little bit.
And it's still going to take you 6 more months to catch up to them because you still have to be in the activity 6 more months. Exactly. And you said something to me the other day. You said, hey, the way I look at it, you're like, the only way I'm going to get better is by actually doing it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, and I think that's probably from having like multiple jobs and doing different things. Like when you show up to a new job, even like you have no idea what to do, right? And unless you did something like you did the same. Like if I was a landscaper for this company and now I'm a landscaper for this company, well, of course I know what to do, right? But you don't know how to do it the way they want you to do it, right? So you have to figure out their system and like how they operate. So that's the first thing. But then like if you go to a completely new job, you have to figure out what it is you need to know. Like, and you have to learn a different language most times, right? Because there's all kinds of inside lingo and all this, like, there's just so much. And if you don't immerse yourself in it and get in there, then you're not going to be good at it.
So we want to challenge you to rethink what your definition of success is, all right? And so right now, I want you to rethink that and say production over perfection, which means every time you do an activity and you do something you need to do that's maybe hard for you to do, that's success, right? That is success because you have another rep. You have another notch in your belt. Like you are mastering that skill. You are mastering that skill. And so all you need to do is you need to stay in the activity long enough. All right. So keep in that activity. Keep doing that activity. Production over perfection. And eventually you will have perfection. Hey, if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you check out this podcast where we talk to real live people who are doing the things that we're talking about.